Today we are discussing with you or presenting to you 5, maybe a couple of more books to help prepare you for what's coming in the world, to help you prevent
the apocalypse.
Well,
no, it's not the apocalypse.
To help prevent against tyranny or tyrannical rule, or to help you like deal with it when it comes, right?
If it comes.
Okay, so I think we just kind of, the preface here is that these are books that we've read that we think are really good for one, life altogether, just kind of like good for life. And then a couple at the end to show you what it could be like if our country and some parts of the free world go the route that historically other countries, other places have gone.
And not that long ago either.
Not that long. Less than 100 years?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Easily.
So yeah. All right. So we'll start off with this one. It's Boundaries by Dr. Henry Cloud and Dr. John Townsend. When did we first hear about Boundaries?
We first heard about Boundaries when we were listening to Dave Ramsey, and that was back in 2008.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Right? Yeah, 2008, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, maybe slightly later than that.
Right.
Or so.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of, this was written in 1992. Yeah. So it's, it's been around for quite a while, and it's good. It's relevant for, like we said, not only preparing for the future, but also in your life now. Briefly, why don't you give people
the subtitle, I think, says it all, which is when to say yes, how to say no, and take control of your life.
Right.
So
do you ever find yourself, not you, Kayla, but people listening or watching, do you ever find yourself saying yes to do things that you don't want to do, or having a hard time saying no, or feeling like even though you said no, that you should feel bad about it? I think this book will help.
Yeah. I mean, I used to be to the extreme.
I rock a mic like a vandal.
I knew you were going to do it.
Did you?
I did. I was like, because I can't say to the extreme without thinking of
rock
that.
Rock a mic like a vandal.
Okay.
Don't say it again.
I'm not. But I used to do that. I would say yes when I really didn't want to do a thing, and then I would resent it. I would sit there and stew about the thing and be so upset that, that I was doing the thing, and it never occurred to me that it was my problem. I was not saying no. All you have to do is say no, and this book is good because it shows you, why you might be afraid of saying no. Like, what does it mean to say no? A lot of times the reason you say yes to things is because you're afraid people won't like you if you tell them no, or you'll lose love. And so they make the point that if somebody reacts badly to your no, then they loved your yes.
Ooh.
They didn't just love you.
That's some spitting of the truth right there. Truth spitting. That's what you were doing.
Are you
we
Vanilla Ice?
We were on the rap thing.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Before he went into real estate.
Who? Henry Cloud?
No. Vanilla Ice.
Oh.
Didn't he have a reality show about
he did.
Miami real estate?
My dad always talked about it, but I never saw it.
So you got to do what Vanilla would do. Something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. All right. So in an effort to not make this too long,
Boundaries.
First book, Boundaries.
Learn how to say no, because that's really what so much of this starts out as, is just people need to say no.
Yeah.
Like when you see something that's going wrong and you are asked to follow along, you just say no.
Do you have a mask? No. Are you going to wear one? No. Okay, done. All right, next book.
Next book
is a very popular book in recent times. Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life. So he does have a second book, a follow-up, Beyond Order. I have not read Beyond Order. You have, but we'll talk about 12 Rules for Life. One of the rules that popped out in my head just from when I was thinking about these books was always tell the truth, or at least don't lie. There's a bunch in here, like stand up straight with your shoulders back. Make friends with people who want the best for you. I'll go past some
treat
of them.
yourself like someone you are responsible for helping.
Yep. Be precise in your speech. There's multiples along this, but the biggest ones for me were tell the truth, or at least don't lie.
At least don't lie. Yeah.
And stand up straight with your shoulders back. That's rule number one. And so with that, it's kind of the same with boundaries, right? You're telling the truth by saying no when you mean no and yes when you mean yes. But also when people ask you about certain things, tell the truth.
You have to say the truth.
Say the truth. For one, the truth will set you free. Jocko says the truth will stand and deliver you.
What does that even mean?
I don't know. I think he just said, "Well, stand," and then the movie "Stand and Deliver" popped into his head, so he said, "And deliver you."
Yeah.
But the truth will set you free. It delivers you from the evils.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, that is something that Jordan Peterson talks about. How if you notice what the things are that you're saying, like just notice your own speech. A lot of times you're saying things that make you sound weak, and you don't really believe them. You're just saying them. So it's important to just tell the truth.
Yeah,
it makes you more powerful.
Yeah, but this is very good. Very good. A bunch of good stuff in there. And if you haven't listened to Jordan Peterson about a lot of different things, yes, we're not saying he's right about everything.
No.
And over the last, we probably heard about him in 2018.
No, I heard him.
17?
Well, I think it was about 2017.
17?
Yeah.
So during the last 5 or 6 years, he has gone through a lot and kind of like come to a lot of realizations about things.
Yeah. Well, and
we think moving towards Christianity, which is good.
And his initial, the reason why he became kind of well known was because he refused to just go along with some guidelines that his college was putting into place, and he spoke up when the government was trying to put certain laws into place about limiting speech in Canada.
Well, it wasn't just limiting; it was compelling speech.
Right? Yeah.
Telling them that they had to say, like
certain
they had
words.
to call somebody their pronouns.
Right. Yeah. Like you must do that. It was compelled speech.
Right.
So and he just said, no, I'm not going to do it. And so.
And he had studied a lot about what happened in the 20th century with all these dictators and things like that, and what led to millions of deaths and whatnot.
Yeah, like why did Nazi Germany happen?
Right.
Why did like Soviet Russia? Why like how did people get sent to the Gulag?
How did it get there?
How did these terrible atrocities? How did we allow them to happen? Especially because these things happened with modern technology in place. It's not as if this was back a long time ago and this terrible thing happened. This is in today's world.
Yeah. All right, moving on. Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink, which I just mentioned, Jocko.
Yeah.
So
he's a good one to just listen to occasionally. He's pretty extreme because he's a Navy SEAL, but
sure, yeah. But extreme ownership, to boil it all down, is take extreme ownership.
Responsibility.
Everything that's happening around you it's on you. It's up to you to either change it, or if it's happening already, it's because of things you either haven't done or did do beforehand.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, there's some extremes on there. You can't control everything,
right?
But you are in control of how you react and respond and the actions that you're taking. And that goes on line with those two books.
Right.
Setting up your boundaries and saying yes when you mean it, no, telling the truth, and then taking extreme ownership
of everything.
Do it. Yeah. Like you just got to do that. Whatever, like I said something to somebody at work the other day. I'm fairly new there, like 3 months. And they said something like, are we running you ragged yet? Or something like that. And I said, no, I'm good. And I said, but every day I choose to be here. So it's like, I'm taking the ownership. I'm here because I want to be here. I'm not here because the world has
made it
conspired
so that you
against
have to
me
be there.
to make me work outside or something. I want to be there, right? That's how you have to do it. And so in your world, you're here because of the actions and decisions that you've made. Now, if you've gotten to a place because of something that was out of your control, you do have to take extreme ownership for the
steps you take.
Yeah, the steps you take to get beyond that. You can't just continually blame people. Like he says, if a person looks at their past and they say, well, my parents weren't disciplined and they didn't teach me discipline, so I can't be disciplined. What are you going to do from there? Nothing.
Right.
You can't do anything because you're blaming your past, but you need to say that it's your responsibility.
Yeah.
And how you move forward.
But I would say a runner-up to this, if you don't want to read this particular book, he has another book called Discipline Equals Freedom, which is a shorter kind of book.
Yeah.
It's like punchier. It's just short little essays. So if you're not a big reader, but you want something to read, that's a really good one.
Yeah.
Same principles for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So if beyond this stuff, right? Like our best efforts have failed, and we are led to a time that is trying and rough, difficult, a lot of hardship, and you want to figure out how can we ever get through this, then you have to read Unbroken by Laura Hildebrand. Hillenbrand.
I always get the name wrong.
Hillenbrand.
Yeah.
This was the first book I read. I read it in 2016, I think.
Yeah.
15, 16?
No, 2014.
14?
I believe it was 2014.
Okay. The first book I read ever in my life. So that was 9 years ago. I was 35 years old. First book I read ever in my life where I did not want to put it down. I just wanted to like keep reading until I got to the end.
So, I remember staying up like 3:00 in the morning. Like I can't stop reading this.
Yeah.
It's so good.
So it's
and we had like young kids at the time too. So it's not like this was just a time in our life where we had a lot of free time.
No, not at all. But it's about Louis Zamperini. He was a lot of things. World War II guy. He was an Olympic runner. But and
a holy terror when he was a kid, and that made me feel so good about my own kids because, you know how you worry about your kids like when they're misbehaving and stuff. And I mean, not once I read like his childhood, I was like, wow, okay, like I should not worry because he turned out fine. Wasn't
like as a toddler, he would like leave the house in the middle of the night.
He would leave. Like one time, I think he like was on a train somehow. I need to go back and reread it.
It would have been in the 20s probably, but still.
Yeah,
all right.
It was great.
So the majority of the story is about when his plane gets shot down and he's having to survive on a raft in the ocean.
Right.
And it's just like so many things happen.
Yeah.
And then he goes to a camp, a prison camp. So he just kept going.
Yeah.
Just keep going. And we're not ruining the book for you. Like this is just it shows how much you can go through and keep going.
Yeah, you've got a lot more in you than you think you do.
Going. And it has a nice thing in the end, too. Yeah.
And if you watched, because I think Angelina Jolie did a movie about this, which we never saw. Because I was like, the movie can never even approach even sort of the book. I mean, because I already know
not even close movie.
Like how movies never live up to the book if you read the book first.
Right.
And I thought I'm not even going to waste my time because I think she cut out a lot of the important stuff.
Right.
Also, just based on what I read about the movie.
Yeah. So read the book.
Anyway, read
or listen to the audiobook if you don't like to read.
Yeah.
Why are you watching this or listening to this if you don't like to read? We're talking about books. Hello. All right. So that tells you how you can get through what we'll talk about here briefly on these next, because that's 4 books, right?
Right.
So these next, we do have 3 other books over here, and actually
we couldn't agree.
On the website officialjrcox.com, there will be a post about this episode where you can see links for these books and a couple of others that didn't quite make the list but are good.
Yeah, good
great
like preparation, overall life preparation for harder times.
All right, so Alexander Solzhenitsyn wrote One Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich, and this is a novel, but it's based on his actual life events.
Yeah, he was a Russian guy.
Yeah, in a camp.
Yeah,
a work camp. Is that what they're called? Work camp. And just how life was, in that time.
Yeah,
and the things that we're seeing happen are the things that happened before and led to these situations. So this can kind of give you an idea of, this was 80 years ago.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
80 years in this world is very, minor as far as the timeline is concerned and relativity.
You know what else you should do is you should post his was it a commencement speech at Harvard?
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
And it's really good. Like, so, and that was in, I think, the 70s or so. But yeah, very, very interesting thoughts. I mean, because the criticisms that he was putting forth of America, he was very grateful to live in America, but he had some real criticisms of our country that are valid even more so today.
Right.
But even back then, he was seeing the same stuff we're all seeing, I think.
Right. It's cautionary tale. Cautionary tale.
Yeah. And inspiring. Did you say inspiring?
And inspiring.
Yes. Yeah.
And
I don't want to ruin what happens in the book.
Yeah, that's true. This next book, we don't have a physical copy of it, and only Kayla has read it, but go ahead.
Yeah. It's called We the Living, and it's Ayn Rand. So you probably have heard of her because of Atlas Shrugged. But this book is not as well known, but it is the closest thing. She said, this is the closest thing I will ever write to an autobiography. And so it is a novel, but it is about basically her experience in the Bolshevik Revolution. So when the communists took over Russia, like what it was actually like to be living in that time, and just there's just a lot of, I think, good stuff in that. I mean, I don't agree with all of her views, but I think it can help you understand what was it actually like when communism, just like you went from one form of government to a totally different thing, like where people were thrown out of their houses, or their property was just taken from them, or people moved into their houses with them because that's what the government said had to happen.
Right.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
These are the things we're trying to prevent.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people think, this kind of stuff can't happen here.
I'm sure the Russians,
America.
Yeah, the Russians thought that too.
It's America, land of the free. That's why we're keeping our guns. I'm just saying, right?
Right. Yeah.
Don't let them take the guns, because then the government, they'll just come after you. All right, this one also I haven't read yet.
Oh.
First, they
have
killed
you
my
not
father.
read this book?
There's so many books.
I know.
When I open a book, you saw last night.
I know.
I sit on the couch. After work, I'm like, read it.
Yeah.
Like, they're good.
Yeah.
But sometimes, right? So I just can have so many I can read.
Yeah. But this one's really good. So this is about
First, they killed my father.
the Khmer Rouge takeover of Cambodia so that's basically when the communists took over in Cambodia with Pol Pot, if you've ever heard that name.
Yeah.
And it is, wow. I mean, just, again, one of those things, they didn't think that something bad like that could really happen in their country. It took them by surprise. So,
And you might think Cambodia, it's probably old time, old whatever. 1975. My older siblings were alive when this took place.
Yeah.
And they're only 52 and 51.
Yeah. It's like some terrible stuff that happened.
Yeah.
Terrible, but really good book. And again, parts of it are very uplifting too. Like it does show you what people are, well, it shows you the evil people are capable of, but it also shows you the depth of love that people can have, and the strength that people can have in really hard times.
And she's smiling on the back.
Oh, yeah.
So even though she had to go through that suffering, came out the other end.
Yeah, this is a first person,
Yeah. All right. And so the final book, only I have read. How have you not read it yet?
I know. I have listened to her interview with Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
So I feel like I've got a pretty good understanding of the story.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's In Order to Live, Yeonmi Park. Now this is the most recent story about it, because she escaped North Korea, but had to go through a lot of terrible situations as a young teenager. Actually, maybe even 12 years old was the youngest, I think, when they were escaping. But she talks about her life in North Korea and what they thought the world was like otherwise. And this is like I think she's maybe 30 years old now.
Yeah.
And so we're talking about in, maybe the 21st century, part of this was happening. I can't remember exactly what year it was.
Yeah.
This was published in 2015. So
yeah. The thing that I think is, well, sort of terrifying is that she escaped, and she ended up going to South Korea, and then she ended up coming to America, and she got into Columbia University. And she says now that she felt that like there was more censorship, like less freedom of speech in Columbia University than there was in North Korea. And that's
scary,
pretty disturbing.
She talks about in North Korea how like her parents' family members would turn each other in for things.
Yeah.
So when she sees that happening here in New York City, right?
Yeah. Like the idea, and the sad part is you do see some sort of things like that starting to happen. Like let's say, they pass a law. It's like, well, you have to say these certain things. Like, and if you don't, actually, aren't there a couple of states where they're already, no, maybe that's different countries where people are getting imprisoned already for misgendering, like
Brazil,
using the wrong pronouns or whatever. Like these are things that are happening and are being discussed in our government, the Canadian government. And so it's not like this is something just over in North Korea that, like, oh, there are these issues. This is happening here. It's certainly happening on college campuses and stuff. So it's very disturbing, but because you can see like what North Korea is like, what kind of extreme it can get to if you don't stand up for it now.
Right.
So,
and that's the thing. That's what we want to point out here is that these are like, we have the opportunity to stand up against this stuff and not let it get like North Korea or Cambodia or Russia at that time. You can take the actions that are necessary, but it takes setting up boundaries, speaking the truth, taking extreme ownership of the situations around you,
right,
and just doing what is right and not being silent. I think last week on the thumbnail for the video of this, I put the Thomas Jefferson quote, and I can't think of it exactly, but basically about all that is needed for tyranny to happen is for good people to stay silent.
Yeah. Yeah.
So don't stay silent.
Just don't stay silent.
Yeah. Speaking of not staying silent, if you would like to chit chat with us, not verbally, well, maybe verbally, because it's on Discord. We have that opportunity sometimes. There's a link in the description where you can go there and sign up for our newsletter, which will then give you access to our Discord server, where it's just a closed group of people who have joined through us, and we can sit there and type back and forth or chat about different things, different topics about life and all that jazz. Yeah.
Indeed.
So check it out, and we'd be happy to talk with you over there. I'm glad you guys are all here. We have to continue to laugh in life, right? Laugh and know that God has a plan for good for us. Right?
No matter how bad it gets.
No matter how bad it gets. And what I tell Kayla all the time is that
it's going
to get really bad.
Yeah.
Right?
It's like whenever I'm like, oh, what if this happens? Like, it's going to get even worse than that. So
yeah. Like, I don't know if you can, if you're watching the video, you can see some of the icons on the wall back there. I was trying to move out of the way, but it's kind of hard to see. Kind of blurry. Yeah. And actually, really, only John the Baptist is one to talk about there. He was
Jesus.
Well, Jesus, yes, obviously, but I'm talking about, people like us. Oh, he was a human, yes, and God, but like us who aren't God, they went through some tough times, and there's still, persecution of Christians around the world. We may not see it like in America, like where Christians are being killed, right? But it's happening around the world in present day. Yeah, but it says very clearly in the Bible, there's plans for good for us.
I mean, it's going to get worse. Yeah. Read the, Revelation. Yeah. It's going to get worse, but then it'll get really good.
Yeah. But during this life that we have here on this earth, enjoy it as best we can. Be honest. Be responsible. Do the right thing, as Spike Lee said. Okay. Thanks for being here. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.